Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 302 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcomed a singer-songwriter based in Tennessee, based in Nashville specifically. Her name is Caleigh Rose. Caleigh got sent to me by Dom. Shout out to Dom. And we actually made this interview happen on about 2 days short notice. So I was very impressed that Caleigh was able to make the time to have this awesome conversation. We talked about her album that released in 2025 called UNBECOMING, the story behind that, how she, pursued music early in her life, kind of put it on the back burner for a while and then has picked it up recently, and how the album is fueled with different stories surrounding her journey, her personal journey. She talks about the song that is dedicated to her daughter and the bond that has been created to grow them closer together and, their relationship overall, what that has meant to her on a personal level. And I think it's very, very inspiring to hear. And she talked about just protecting the vision of the album, how during the process, she had a lot of different moments where she could have partnered with the wrong person to release it or worked with the wrong collaborators, but she chose to stick it out for the long haul and ended up putting out an album that she was very proud of, which I think is something we all can take notes of as artists, because sometimes we might want to jump the gun just to release it, and it might not be the right situation or the right time. And I think Caleigh is an example of someone that saw her vision through to the very end, and now she's reaping the benefits of that with promoting this project. So go check out UNBECOMING, and shout out to Caleigh for joining me for this awesome conversation this week. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy this one too. And without further ado, let's get into it. This right here is episode 302. And I'm joined by someone I just met like 2 days ago. Shout out to Dom for connecting us. Caleigh Rose is here. How are you doing, Caleigh?
Great. Thank you, Anthony, for having me.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's literally been like 2 days and we haven't really got to have a full conversation until now, but I'm definitely excited to have this chat with you. And I usually have the guests kind of start by giving a little bit of a brief synopsis of who you are, how you got into music, for those that might not know you and what you do.
So without further ado, I'm Caleigh Rose. I started in music when I was a kid, so it was always a passion of mine. I grew up singing in church and in choirs. I studied music vocally, and then kind of took the life route and had a stable job. Music throughout my life was that thread, but from a professional standpoint and an artist standpoint, I didn't pursue music until later on in life.
Yeah. Where did that decision come from then to pick it back up and then to where you are now, where you're putting out music? I see on social media you're actively pushing these songs that you've released recently. Where did the decision come from to decide to pursue it again?
It was through a series of life changes and loss, and really looking at the curtain's already up, life's already started, and what brings me joy and what do I want to do in this world. Being a mom, I think, was one of the biggest pivotal points of showing my daughter that you get to go after your dreams. And it's brought me so much healing and hope and peace, and truly new life. Yeah,
that's amazing. And it's got to be fulfilling as well to have your daughter kind of see what you're doing, and then hopefully that's, inspiring her as well. Now, what does she think about what you do musically? And is she like a fan of what you're doing and like the style you make and things like that?
Yeah, so my daughter loves music. That is both of our mutual love language. And so being able to bond with her over music, especially my music, has been just super special. What I Wish You Knew, which is the last song on the album, I wrote for her. I wrote for all of the things that I wish she knew. And so hearing her sing that song, I think, is the most special to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's got to be very personal too, to have that and kind of share that moment as well. Which is that's what family's all about too. And that's another example of how music can kind of bring people together in different ways, which I think is some of the most powerful things of all. And obviously this album is called Unbecoming. You put it out last year. I think it was 15 songs. Am I right in that? 15 songs?
Yes, it is 15 songs. Yeah. The album is made up of 3 sections. The first 5 songs are the background. The next 5 songs are the breakdowns. And the last 5 songs are the breakthroughs. Really showing the arc of kind of that personal journey.
Yeah. I'm curious to know what the title means, because the way I perceive Unbecoming is kind of almost like reinvention, maybe like kind of like a new beginning for you, or maybe a new beginning of a chapter of your life. So tell us about the title itself, and then what went into creating this project overall.
Yeah, so Unbecoming to me is that experience and the letting go of who you thought you had to be who you really are. The layers that we carry, if that is kind of conditioning or the aspects of society that tell us who we are, is letting go of all of those things. And truly unbecoming who we thought we were.
Yeah. Is that something that, because I almost feel like that's a topic you would really only be able to cover if you've lived those experiences. I feel like if you were younger, you might not be able to make an album talking about those topics. Am I right in saying that, like, you're at the stage of life where that makes sense to speak on that? Do you feel that way about this?
Absolutely. I think that part of the beauty of the music is that it is the journey. It is the life lessons that I've carried. It's the experience that I wanted to share, the wisdom that I found through that journey. And for me, the arc of the album is so important because it really highlights not just my journey, but that journey of self-discovery, of self-love, of the experience of just kind of letting go of expectations of yourself as well, because at least for me, some of it was self-imposed things.
Yeah.
And then the beauty that I found through that, I think is also reflected in the album cover, right? So the cover is a rose, and there's lots of petals, and roses are delicate, just like we are, like our stories and like those layers. And so the more you peel back the petals of a rose, the more vulnerable it is. Yeah. Just like the album.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it sounds like it was a very freeing experience, too, to be able to record it and eventually release it then, and use that as a representation of where you are in your journey overall, which is super awesome. And congratulations on that, because that takes a lot of courage, I think, to be able to do that and put that out there. So that's super incredible. And I guess let's start with the joyous side of things. What do you think was the best part, or your favorite personal part of recording, putting this album together?
There were so many milestones for me. Being able to bring the vision to life was probably the biggest, right, for any artist. The most joyful was the day I wrote the song for my daughter.
Yeah.
So in that song, there is talks about, chasing a rainbow. And my daughter loves ice cream, and so I decided to mark the occasion by taking her for ice cream. While in the car, we saw the first rainbow together. And so for me, I think that was the most joyful aspect of kind of sharing that moment with her. You know, being an artist, having something that was so personal, vulnerable, internal, that I didn't share with most, right? Like there was a little bit on the writing side, but the majority of the story of the process of the album was for me. And so having that day, that moment that was marked with her was very joyful, as well as the release. I think the release was a beautiful opportunity to celebrate. Being in the studio that first day, that was also really joyful.
Yeah. Wanted to take a quick minute out of today's episode to let you guys know of a way that you can support the show, a way that you can donate some funds to us, starting at as little as $5 or more via our Ko-fi page. Now, we've been using Ko-fi now for a few years, and it's been a very effective way to generate some funds that we end up using for, you know, future guests, sponsors, just an overall way to keep this show as quality as it has been for the last several years, and we always appreciate any and all contributions. So if you go to ko-fi.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, that's ko-fi.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, you can donate, like I said, $5 or more. You know, it gives you that option to do 10, 20, 30, or just type in whatever amount. Any contributions are appreciated. And, you know, I do this show from the bottom of my heart for the love of it at the end of the day. But those funds are always welcome, because they do allow us to do more and be more flexible with how we continue to grow this platform in the future. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. The link will be in the description of the show notes of this episode you're listening to now, so definitely check it out. But without further ado, let's get back into the episode. I feel like release day is always like, it's like the payoff to all that work you put in, which is super, super awesome. But also, like we said earlier, those moments with the people that you care about the most, those mean even more. So it's great to hear that that was kind of a shared experience for you and your daughter as well during the making of it. And that transitions to the other side of things, which would be, what was the most challenging part of putting this whole thing together? Maybe something that, you know, was a bit of a headache at first, but then it all kind of worked out in the end.
You know, an album like this is a labor of love. Being able to bring to life 15 songs, and most artists will tell you, if there's 15 tracks on the album, there's more than 15 that were written.
Yep.
And so the amount of time and intention and detail that goes into a work of art like that, I know that the hardest part was staying true to the vision, while the time frame that it took was much longer than I anticipated. And so instead of pushing, I paused. I paused several times through the process of the album, from recording, from even the true launch of marketing, due to personal changes and things that happened that were unforeseen. And that, I think, was the hardest part for me. It was the hardest because I knew the value of the work. And instead of pushing it, I paused and I held the album close every step of the way, and protected the album for what it was. And I'm grateful for that. At the time, it was really hard. Yeah. But now looking back on it, I can see the beauty in that journey.
Yeah. And that's important because you're protecting your vision overall. I think whenever you bring other people in to that vision, whether it's, a label or a PR team or even collaborators, you have to make sure that they are on the same page with your vision because it is yours at the end of the day, and you have to live with the end result. So for you, I think that takes a lot to be able to do that. And I'm happy for you that you were able to see that through because, like you said, now you're looking back on it and saying I did the right thing, when you could have easily just gave in and been like, well, if it means getting it out sooner, let me partner with this person, even if it's not the right thing to do. And you trusted your gut and your heart as well, which is super super big, for anything that anyone does. I think you gotta keep doing that. So that's definitely incredible. And I'm also curious to know if there's anyone maybe that you collaborated with on this project. Could be producers, engineers, anyone at the studio, anyone you want to give a shout out to today on the episode.
So there were two collaborators, actually in the entire project, which is incredibly rare. So we'll shout out both collaborators, Lou and Cody. Thank you for all of your help and support. It was truly a gift to be able to have a project that was such a tight team, and carrying that vision through.
Yeah, that's incredible. Where are you based out of, by the way? I didn't even ask that earlier. Are you like East Coast?
I'm in Nashville.
Oh, nice. So what's that like working in such a big music city? Because obviously it is the music city, and there's a lot of different artists and a lot of different people, trying to do their own thing. What is that like working in that city specifically, I guess, doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think it is really trusting your gut as an artist.
Yeah.
For me, it was connecting with others while connecting with myself. I had recorded previous to this album. I had worked with other studios. I had worked with other, sound folks and collaborators, and being able to bring something to life that was my authentic voice, not the city's voice. I think there is that beauty in being in Nashville, and the culture that's here and the creative energy is just incredible, while allowing the capacity to have my distinct voice.
Yeah.
The album is not one genre. The album, while it does have folk roots, and a couple songs that, have a little bit more country to them, it's pop in nature. It is more, kind of all-encompassing, and whatever served the song was where we went.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you said earlier, where you're not allowing outside influence to dictate your art and what you're doing specifically, which I think is super awesome. And again, I just want to say congrats on seeing that vision through, and just congrats on the project overall. Because like I said, even on social media, I can tell you've been pushing these songs and trying to promote and do all these things around it. So I think it's very impressive what you've done, what you've been able to do. So hats off to you on that, for sure.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I want to just encourage, all the artists that are listening, that your catalogs, they're still able to go back to them. This, as Anthony shared, this was released over a year ago, and now they're starting to get more traction. So it's never too late.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes that long of pushing a release to be able to get it to pick up with different people and get different people to hear it. So I completely agree with that. And with that said, I am curious to know, because you said you did record other songs in the process, and I assume you might have other things in the works as well. Is there anything that's going to be coming out new music-wise in 2026, or are there any plans at all for new music soon that you could let us know about?
So there will be music. There are some exciting things that are in the works. Still not sure on dates yet, but there is new music coming.
Nice. So be on the lookout, everybody, for new Caleigh Rose. Definitely exciting. And we're on to the last few questions here. These ones are more life-related ones. These are also ones I ask on every single episode. The first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago, give yourself any piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
I don't think I would change anything, because I wouldn't have written the album. I wouldn't be here where I am today. I would say, girl, you're just starting. You have no idea what's ahead of you. And I moved to Nashville for a completely different career. I have been here for 11 years, and initially was here for corporate business. And 10 years ago, I never would have imagined I would be sitting here talking to you today, that this would be possible, that I would have lived my dream and brought it to life and created a completely different life as a single mom. The shift in me, as you mentioned before, that wouldn't have happened when I was younger. The music wouldn't be what it is today without the life experience.
Yeah. It's that process of living and learning and then applying it to where you're headed from here, which I think is super awesome.
And forgiving yourself for the things that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And the lessons that I had to learn, and some of them were really hard. One of my favorite songs on the album is Forgive Me. It is a love letter to yourself, about forgiving yourself for all of the things.
Yeah, which is super important, and something that I think a lot of people have to learn too, because you can hold the grudges against yourself, not just other people. And that's something that I think a lot of people can kind of relate to in their own way as well. And usually we like to flip that question and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself with music, but also in life overall?
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit. I envision myself continuing to bring to life music that is authentic, that speaks on a deep level. I'm really passionate about mental health and the personal reflection that is possible through music. And so that is something that I'm continuing to carry the torch on. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I guess time will tell where this leads, which is very exciting also. So, and do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners before we get out of here?
Bet on you. Bet on you. And be brave to take that first step.
Yeah. And that can be hard. That can be very hard, no matter what you're trying to pursue. But Caleigh, I gotta say, you're doing that in full stride right now with the music and everything you got coming up soon. So again, I want to say congrats, and thanks again for stopping by on short notice, on 2 days notice, making this conversation happen. And I want to shout out Dom again for connecting us, and I'm excited to see what you do moving forward. And if you ever have more new music soon, you want to come back and do a part 2, we'll definitely make that happen. So thank you again.
Thank you, Anthony. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Just want to say thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to hit that coffee link in the description of this episode if you'd like to donate any funds. And we'll see you back here with another new episode next week. As always, thank you for your support.